And our mover for the day is making moves in the anime space, a Black man, y'all, writer and director, head writer of Yasuke. I know I'm not saying this right. Or is it Yasuki? You'll tell me. It's on Netflix. I started watching it. I think Lakeith Stansbury is it. Anyway, he's going to tell us all about it. Let me welcome the brilliant, the beautiful Mr. Nick Jones Jr.
Hey, how you doing?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Very mellow. So he's telling me he was raised all over the country, and I have questions. Was your dad in the military? How are you from Alabama to South Jersey to Newark to all over the place?
Well, so I was in the military, but my dad, him and his family just kind of, his brothers, they went up to New Jersey, was driving trucks for a while, and then times got hard, and he came back home to Alabama. So I was in Jersey for the first 6 years of my life, and then the rest of that, I was in Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, and then you joined the military because
I
you don't
did
look old enough to have done that and now have this whole career. So tell me that transition.
12 years. I was in the Marines for 12 years. Yeah.
I'm not going to say the hoorah because that would make me disrespectful. What was that experience?
It was it was an experience I needed. I know that much. I was a hothead kind of coming up playing sports and stuff, high school and college, and I needed direction. And instead of going back home after I kind of flunked out of out of college to my first stint, I joined the Marines and did that.
Tell me something that you learned now looking back, right? Because I think our experiences are only great when we're able to apply a perspective on it. You
Yeah.
know, your 20 something year old self. What could you see in that experience that now would be problematic for who you are today?
Well, I wish I was 20 something. I'm not, but
No, I'm saying when you were in the military, you
oh,
had to
I
be in your
was.
20s because you don't look old enough to have been there 12 years and be much older than that. So I'm thinking you are in your, I'm not going to say what I think, but I think you were in your 20s when you were in the military.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking back, I think, I mean, I tell people all the time, I didn't give my dad what he wanted. I gave him what he needed, and he needed me to be my own man. And so joining the Marines was like the first adult decision that I made. I joined when I was 19, and for me, it gave outside of like the sense of honor and duty that the military can do for you. It just kind of it got me on track to be more just to be a better man, a better planner, and it just instills a lot of discipline in you. I needed some discipline, and not to say that my folks had put it in me, because my dad did not spare the rod back in the day, but I think there was something to um, being away from the nest and being able to kind of like be a functioning adult outside of like the purview of my father and my family, and having to just do it on my own and having other people to answer to, that just gets you right.
And you're a junior, so there had to be extra pressure. So
Yeah.
the military training, was that a precursor to your anime, that all of that martial arts and stuff that you're into now creatively? Was that influenced by your military background?
Yeah, a lot of the emotional threads and themes for the show for Yasuke was kind of derived from my experience in the Marines. Um, just everything from just honor and that sense of duty, because Yasuke serving in the military, the Japanese military back then, that form of that, while he's serving under Oda Nobunaga, and knowing what that's like to actually have a service to duty, and also too just the PTSD and the trauma that kind of comes with combat and war, and what it's like to lose friends to suicide, and so that was one of the main things for me, having had some friends that have committed suicide in the Marines. I wanted to kind of focus on what that would have felt like for Yasuke, his friend and mentor, Nobunaga, the one that kind of brought him into the ranks and made him a general in his army, and made him a samurai and gave him land. What it's like to see that the person that kind of meant so much to him commit suicide in front of him, and they have this which is called seppuku, which is this honorable suicide that Japanese warriors would do, and
Where they fall on their own sword,
yes,
literally.
yes, and there's actually another there's another job to that. So if someone commits seppuku, they can charge someone to be their kashikunin, which is the person that's supposed to chop their head off after they fall on their sword. And I thought that was like an interesting wrinkle to kind of add to Yasuke's, to kind of add to his his trauma, where it's like, not only did your friend commit suicide in front of you, but you actually participated in the act and had to chop his head off. Like, how does that mess with you moving forward? So wanted to start there and then kind of build out, okay, what are the relationships and the drives that lead to that point, and then what's the trauma that comes after that.
We're talking with Nick Jones Jr., NJ Future. You can follow him on the Twitters, of course. And Yasuke was a real person, 1579, an African. Some say he was from Ethiopia, maybe he was from Mozambique. I'm going to lean into that one, who landed in Japan. And talk about the real Yasuke, because you had to meet him during your studies to create this character, which I love, the nod. Talk about that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, diving into Yasuke, for me, like I actually first heard about him when I was in Japan. So I spent some time in Japan in the Marines, and I actually served alongside Japanese military forces. And so it was someone over there that was just like, hey, you remind me of Yasuke, and I was like, who's Yasuke? Who's that? I thought it was just like some friend of theirs or something back on the mainland, on the main island and stuff. And so they kind of like broke it down to me, and I was the only Black person on this remote island at the time. I was like, oh, we had a Black samurai? Like, is that real? And so over the subsequent years, I was able to kind of learn a little bit more, little nuggets here and there. And so it was more like a myth. And then when Netflix kind of called me for the show, I was then able to kind of dive into the legend and do more research on it. And I was fortunate to actually go to an art exhibit that had a statue of Yasuke. And so it's just like, oh, dope. And then like literally like a month or two after that, like I get the call from Netflix and they're like, hey, we got this show Yasuke, you want to do it? And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just pause. We had an African samurai in Japan. Just want to pause. Digest that for a second. All right. Second, this was not something you brought to Netflix. It's something Netflix brought to you. So who was driving that? And then why you? Why you, Nick Jones?
Man. So when I came on board the project, it was already set up at Netflix with LaShawn Thomas, who created it, and Flying Lotus, who does our music, and Lakeith Stanfield. And so obviously when they came to me, they needed a writer to kind of flesh everything out. They had some cool nuggets of ideas and stuff. And I was like, all right, dope. Like, I mean, honestly, as soon as they said Lakeith, I was like, I'm in. I've been a fan of his since Short Term 12 and everything that he's done since then. So to have the opportunity to work with him and everyone else too was amazing. But yeah, and so that call, definitely was, it was something, like I said, that, wasn't expecting, kind of came out of nowhere. And I guess why me, I literally just I helped develop this animated show for Netflix called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. And I think we're going into the third season now, but they brought me in to kind of develop that show and make sure
that's
the right.
That's you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm watching that as well. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
I watch a lot of cartoons, but go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to do something for my daughter because the stuff I did before that was, older and visceral, whether it was like Black Sails or Casual or Man Down. And so I wanted to do something that my daughter could watch, and she loves dinosaurs. She's 5 now, but I was just like, yeah, I'm going to help, develop this and make sure that, we get the characters down and everything like that. And so I think after doing that, my name kind of just circled around the right, ears at Netflix. And so when they were doing Yasuke, they were like, well, we definitely need a Black writer on this. And they called me.
I want to get into a couple of things. There are people listening right now, and we have these tropes even with us that they won't let us do X, Y, and Z. And my thing is just do what you do. They can't stop you because the stuff is so amazing and dope. So we're talking to a Black man right now that not only has written cartoons, but is now in one of Netflix's most, I want to say is most watched, one of the most watched anime pieces that they have right now, Yasuke, which I didn't know was based on a real character. It's just tell your story. tell your story, tell it as authentically as possible. Don't worry about whether they're going to accept it or not, because the truth of the matter is when we show up as our full selves, there's no stopping us. There's no stopping us. All right, Nick is here. Nick Future, NJ Future, Nick Jones Jr. And so you got out of the military. You went to film school.
Yes.
And then how did you end up becoming this world-renowned superstar?
You know, it's so I'd be remiss without saying the person that got me to like get out the military to go to film school was President Obama, and so we got to, you know, I got the chance to hang out with him for about a month and a half in Hawaii, and he just, you know, was literally just like pouring knowledge into me. And
wait, pause. Wait here. Oh, y'all was just out there, and then it's like, hey, Barry, what? Yeah, I mean, what, you just slipped that in. So I'm hanging out for a month with Barack Obama. How?
So this was after my deployment. I was stationed in Hawaii, and I was doing security forces at the time. So that, you know, I was like working the gate and stuff, making sure everything was good to go. But I was doing that at night, and so my days were just chill. And so one day I'm at the gym, chilling on the treadmill, doing my thing. This was right after the election. And, you know, so Obama's like all over the news cycle, CNN, everything. And, you know, in military gyms, all that they play on the TV is like the news. And so I'm in there getting it in, running my miles. And then I do like a double take to my right, and it's Obama, like literally right next to me on the treadmill. And he's getting on, and he looks at me, waves. I'm like, hey. And then I start looking around, and the entire gym has been emptied out. Only people in there is Secret Service. Michelle's in the corner doing curls, because I just like zoned out, and I was like, what is happening? And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll be chill, you know, because that's about to be my future boss, because it's like a whole different dynamic. And so I finished my run, and then I go into the basketball court area, and I'm just in there shooting by myself and stuff. And then about 20 minutes goes by, and then Secret Service, they bust in, they go to all the exits, and then he comes in flanked by 2 agents, and he's like, hey, mind if I shoot with you? I was like, yeah. And that's what we did every day up until Christmas, and that's when, you know, we played horse or one-on-one and stuff, and he was just talking to me about.
Wait, did you let him win? You let him win, didn't you, Nick?
I didn't. No, he's actually good. I'm not gonna sit here and say I let him win. He's good. He's good. But you can't. But I will say I was afraid to get physical, because it's the president, and then you got Secret Service right here. I don't need to be jumped on. It's just like, yo, like I just kind of let him do what he was gonna do. But he was hitting the shots. And I was bricking a couple. So yeah, you know, he would win.
Wow. All right. So the relationship, golly, that sets you on a trajectory that pretty much, pretty much there's no obstacle after that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, and the stuff that he was telling me, it wasn't anything that, you know, say like a teacher or your folks wasn't telling you growing up, but you know, it just meant more coming from him. And definitely, you know, with me being, you know, being a Black man and what he meant to me in the culture, you know, you listen, and, you know, and he was saying some good stuff, and kind of the parallels of, even though he was in politics and you know, I wanted to have a career in the industry, there were some parallels there that made sense, where it was just like, yo, like, this is just kind of like the basic, like, this is what you need to do to make it type stuff. And you know, and part of that was just, you know, realizing or kind of, you know, taking advantage of my benefits as a veteran, and so I was able to go back to college. I went to film school for free, using my GI Bill, and you know, just being good in a room, you know, being good with people, and also too, just being a sponge. You know, I think, you know, obviously being in the military, there's an aspect of trying to, you know, learn as much as you can, obviously, when you're prepping for missions and things of that nature. But, you know, being able to kind of pick up on just like the little things, and really diving in on at a deeper level, you know, the type of things that not only make you click, but, you know, make other people click, which I think inherently made me a better writer. Because it's just like, okay, now I know what I like, but, you know, what does the audience like? What do the execs like? You know, what am I pitching? What's the deeper meaning of these stories, themes, and things of that nature? So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for President Obama.
Do you still have his number?
Maybe he has mine.
All right. 866-801-8255. I was asking for a friend.